Hello, this is Ed Rigsbee with another edition of Raw and Unedited for Association Executives, where we bring solutions for you, the association and society executive, so you can do your job better. Well, in this coronavirus crisis, a lot of people have been asking, what do they do regarding the employees if they have to furlough them, they have to let them go? What are the ramifications? And I reached out to Phin, who is an employment lawyer and our employee law lawyer, as well as a seminar leader on the topic. He's from San Diego, California. Don, thanks so much for being here.
Well, I'm glad to be here because this is where I can be helpful right now.
Excellent. So Don, you know, the big question that a lot of people are asking is, okay, if I have to furlough people, should I do it today, March 31st, wait till tomorrow, April 1, or what should I do? What are your thoughts?
And that's a very timely question, Ed, because these emergency sick pay leave and this emergency FMLA leave, they start tomorrow. April 1st is the day that they said this all kicks in. And the bottom line is, if somebody is not your employee tomorrow, then they're not subject to those rights. Okay, so that's the big deal in timing. Now, just because it takes place on April 1st doesn't mean everybody's going to apply for that sick leave, because it's got limited circumstances that they can apply for it, or that FMLA leave. But given the fact that we're just hitting this curve, you can expect that sooner or later, everybody's going to be subject to those rights. And you have to decide whether you have, it's really about cash flow. It's really about, do you have the cash flow to get you through a couple of months, and that you can front load this, even if people aren't working. That's a really important thing to understand. Even if they're not working, you're going to pay them, because the government's either going to give you a credit or a loan that's going to be forgiven for you to do that. Okay, so that's the main decision. But with all of my clients, we're really looking at, what does our cash flow allow us to do? Because it makes no sense to put yourself into bankruptcy trying to keep somebody on payroll.
Sure, absolutely. So, so if they let if they let their staff go today, March 31st, then they can avoid some of those mandates, I guess.
They'll avoid all of them. They'll avoid all of them.
Now,
okay?
Where does do we have an ethical issue here? You know, somebody, an association getting rid of employees today versus tomorrow, or?
No, it's absolutely within your right to do so. And you have to make a business decision. So one of the challenges that we have when we go through this, and if you let me just digress for half a second,
sure.
A lot of times, how do we manage this? How do we show up in light of all of this? And there's two words I help my clients really focus on. Number one is responsibility. So what are you responsible for here? And you're responsible for what the law says you're responsible for. Number one, you're responsible to put people in a safe workplace. All right. So if somebody's sick, or they're afraid they're sick, well, if you have other people sitting around them, that's being irresponsible safety-wise, right?
Sure.
So that's where the separation, the quarantine, all that is very important. So that's a legal obligation to these people. You certainly have legal obligations to pay them and to live up to all those obligations. Your other obligations are to people, not for people. So the law says where you're responsible for your employees. The other place is where you're responsible to your employees. And when it comes to employee finances, I hate to say this, but you are not responsible for your employees' finances.
Okay.
You have some employees who earn the same amount, who've saved hard and can get by these next few months with some stress, but they'll get through the other end of it. You have some people who haven't saved anything, and they're going to be in a much more stressful situation. How they handle their money is not your responsibility, so don't get caught up in a trap thinking it somehow is, all right? Now, what's going on is when you let people go, most states, including California, where Ed and I are, right away, people will be getting unemployment from week one. So usually there's a week lag, and Congress said, hey, if you want this money from us, you're going to get rid of that week lag, and we're going to throw an extra $600 a week onto the payment. So the payments run from about $275 top payment in Alabama to something like $759 in New Jersey, with California being about a midpoint, about $450. So those employees will get $450 plus $600 on it. There's actually going to be some employees who are minimum wage earners who are going to earn more while unemployed than they were working for you. So there's a tipping point of, if somebody's making 100 grand, they're not going to earn more. They're going to be capped out at what the unemployment rate is, plus
Sure.
the $600.
Yeah.
But that's $1,000 a week, and most people won't starve if they're getting $1,000 a week. So it's a big safety net. What you have to understand is what the government has done is to create a big safety net for everybody, all right? So that people don't end up on the street, which is what we don't want, all right?
Got it.
So that's the first thing. The other side of it, that's the logical thing we want to ask ourselves: what's my responsibility here? Emotionally, how do we show up through all of this? And the word I distill that down to is grace. So you want to show up grace. You've heard grace under fire. Well, that's what we've got right now. You're under fire. You're going to show up gracefully in all of this instead of some panicked, freak out. It's going to cause everybody else to panic and freak out. But if you show up gracefully, that'll go a long way to having people have confidence in you and things like that. So responsibility and grace are how we handle this as we go through it. Now, again, going back to letting people go, well, they've got this unemployment. If they want to say, no, I don't want to go on unemployment yet, I want to use up my pay time off or something like that, they can. You can't force them to use the mandatory sick pay and things like that. But if they want to say, hey, I want full pay, I don't want unemployment, I'll take my PTO for 2 weeks, then I'll go into unemployment, they're able to do that. One of the decisions we have to make is I want to make sure people are clear about the languaging. So if you terminate somebody and you terminate a lot of people, that's known as a layoff. So a layoff is just terminating multiple people. A furlough is where you keep them on in your system, but you're not paying them now because you don't have any work for them. That means that you don't have to, they can still get unemployment when they're furloughed. It's just that you don't have to send out termination notices and COBRA notices and pay out their pay time off and do all those things as you would as a regularly terminated employee. The basic deal is as soon as we've got work again, we're going to bring you back on. Now, the added expense of furloughing people is that you maintain them on their benefits. Right?
Ah.
And the government has basically said people have to be actively employed in order to get benefits. Well, everybody's saying, look, if they're on furlough right now, we're going to consider them actively employed. So you want to make sure you touch base with your benefits broker to make sure how they handle benefits in a furlough. All right. Now, sometimes we have the situation where employees, we automatically taking out their portion of the insurance payments. All right. You might not be able to do that right now. And so then you're going to say, hey, if we do that later on, we're going to ask you to pay that back. And in many states, you can't force people to pay that back. You'd have to go into collections, which nobody's going to do. So part of your charity may end up being paying that employee portion of their health care right now. All right. So hopefully that makes sense. You're going to furlough them. As soon as they have work again, you come back on, you get unemployment in the meantime, and we'll maintain your benefits. Now, another option that people are doing is they're saying, all right, we're going to do a 20% pay cut across the board. And if that's the case, that's fine. Some unemployment departments will supplement that other 20%, depending on what's going on in your state. And you just have to make sure you don't drop people down below minimum wage or the exemption status to be an exempt employee, which is there's a federal limit and a state limits on it. So, for example, back again in California, 2 times minimum wage. As long as you don't drop down below that and make them an hourly employee when you reduce that 20%. So just be aware of that. And again, these unemployment departments would rather have you keep people partially employed than completely unemployed. So they'll supplement that with partial unemployment payments.
Question. In California, and I know some other states have it, is the job share program where
Yes.
where 2 people take one job and each of those 2 people take partial unemployment benefit. Is that something that's a workable
Yep.
situation?
So again, it's the same thing. It's the business of some people work 1 week, some people work the next week. However these arrangements work, you want to check with your unemployment department to see how they're handling that. That's where you want to go. So in California, you go to EDD, they have a whole coronavirus page. Most of the states have done that now.
Okay.
And again, the federal government has said to all these states, that's what we want you to do. We want to incentivize employers to keep people on payroll as much as humanly possible. And in fact, if you're having cash flow problems keeping people on payroll, we'll advance you the money to do it. Well, right up front, you can apply saying we like to keep people on, but we're having challenges right now. So there's two basic types of payments that can come in to keep people. One is a Payroll Protection Act, which basically gives you 2.5 times your payroll, which is a lot. But you can use it to pay for utilities and other things like that, all these benefits that you might be keeping. So it allows you to do all of that, and that's really good money. And if those people stay on throughout the whole 8 weeks that you put the people on, they'll forgive that loan. So my advice to a lot of companies is if you can handle even short-term cash flow, get that money. That's the best money the government's ever given anybody, right? The other type of loan is an SBA disaster loan. It's for the whole company as in general. You can pay off notes and all that type of stuff with that money. And again, those are amazing interest rates for a long time. So I'll stay in my lane and not be your CPA, but a lot of this is about math. A lot of this is just knowing your math, knowing your run rate. And what you don't want to do is self-sacrifice. That makes no sense. You're not going to say that. It's one thing if you're like a CEO taking a pay cut so everybody can do it. It's another thing if you're bleeding money because you're just trying to help everybody else and you're suffering yourself as a result. That's no hero you want to be. You do not have to self-sacrifice going through all of this.
Sure. Well, my guess is there's a lot of association executives struggling with the fact that, okay, I've got so much in reserve. We don't have our conference coming up, or is going to be postponed, which is a whole nother kettle of fish there. But
I've had a whole bunch of speaking gigs postponed, so
yeah,
or eliminated, never mind even postponed.
But they're thinking, they're looking long term, rightfully so, and going, okay, this crisis is not going to be forever, and as soon as the crisis is over, I got to get my staff back in working. So it sounds like what you're saying is, not every association is going to have the same issue, but it sounds like what you're saying is the furlough program is really going to be the way to go if they want to, number one, slow down the cash flow or the cash bleed. Number two, have their people in place when things turn around. And it also sounds like you said that they should be applying for these government loans at once. Did I get that?
I would.
Right?
You can't apply for both. You have to pick and choose. So that's where you really do the math and work with your CPA or your banker to say which one of these do I apply for.
Okay.
And just like everything else with the government and everything, we're suffering from bandwidth challenges in this.
Yeah.
People apply for the SBA loan and halfway through applying for it, the whole thing shuts down.
Yeah.
So that's going on. The unemployment department in all these different states are going to be on overwhelm right now.
Yeah.
You've got less employees handling 10 times the number of claims.
Well, let me take a left turn here. A number of the associations that are in decent shape and they've got good reserves to where they're not going to have to lay off employees and they're having their employees working from home. What are the ramifications of that? Is there anything that they need to be cautious of or aware of?
Yeah, there's a couple of things. Number one, just because they're working at home doesn't mean they're going to be productive working at home. And so they set up to work at home. In my house here, I have a separate office I just turned into. I can work out of the office. I can keep distractions away. A lot of people, they're in a 1-bedroom and they're going to be working out of their kitchen while everybody's running around a place, right? So the first thing is, can they be productive? Okay. That's the number one question. Second thing is the cyber liability exposure right now is enormous.
Oh,
So half of all cyber breaches, in fact, statistically more than half of cyber breaches, are caused by employees opening up stupid stuff. Now, you can have all this IT stuff in the world about people hacking in, but then an employee opens up an email that they shouldn't, right? And the ability for people to come into an organization from somebody's home is much differently from their office. So you've got to get the IT person to say, yep, I got this I got this
I see.
covered.
I
All
see.
right. So to the extent that these people are coming into your systems from their house, as opposed to just doing work and emailing you or something like that, the IT people have really got to, this is where you're going to see how your IT people step up, your IT vendors step up. This is where you learn a lot about who your partners are in all of this.
I
You
see.
learn a lot about your CPA. You learn
Yeah.
about a lot about your benefits broker. You learn about a lot of people in this crisis right now.
Got it. I've just noticed I've been getting a tremendous amount of humor and video and this, that, the other from friends, which I haven't opened. I just, I just ignore it because I don't know what it is.
Right.
But I guess what you're saying is an employee that's working from home, it's not used to this total freedom. I can do whatever I want. Maybe spending part of their time reading stupid emails from stupid people and might be putting their company in jeopardy.
That's correct. So we really get clear about what protocols we want to have when people are working at home. And there's plenty of great information out there. I'm a big LinkedIn learning guy. I've done a bunch of trainings for them. They have a whole remote worker training section. And a lot of that, I was just on a call before us, where they're giving a lot away of that for free in LinkedIn Learning right now.
Okay.
So take a look at LinkedIn Learning. They have a lot about remote worker training in there right now.
That's good. Good to know.
Yeah.
Oh, excellent. So, let me just ask you, the last question. What's the opportunity of this? I mean, what's the good side? Where's the silver lining, if there is one? What should the people that are running trade associations and professional societies be looking at in this whole mess?
Yeah, in a crisis like this, the first thing people want to do is to hold on to what they got so they don't lose any more.
Okay.
Most people on this call have saved money, and they just lost 20% of it. That hurts a lot. Now they're afraid of losing any more. So we can get caught up into, let me just hold on and hide and be very provincial right now, where when we're feeling stuck, the way out is through creativity. So this is an opportunity to really show creative muscle for both yourself and your members. So I would right now really be having Zoom meetings like this, or some types of chat situations. How are you handling it? What are you doing? So for example, I speak to a lot of the Vistage CEOs, right? And I've been on the Vistage board, and those CEOs are going back and forth talking about, this is what I did, this is what I did. And they're learning from each other on the fly. And I get to put my expert thing, this is what you might want to consider. But that's to keep that kind of dialogue going on with your members, where they're learning from each other. I just did a webinar for a cleaning association. Well, these companies are deciding, we're supposed to do cleaning in people's residential cleaning. Do I send anybody in anymore? Are you sending anybody in anymore? How are you handling it? What type of equipment are you using? So because there's no blueprint for this, everything's so dynamic,
Sure.
getting people an opportunity to talk to each other dynamically is really important right now. That's where you can probably be of the greatest help to your membership, facilitating learning from each other.
Sure. Keeping them engaged. Engaged. Absolutely. Yeah. Hey, Don, so if any of the association execs out there want to reach out to you, how would you want them to do that?
They can, the easiest way is just go to all my contact information is on my website. I will just show the screen for half a second.
Sure.
And what we're doing is, my web person is working on this right now. You should be able to see my screen.
Yes.
It's just donphin.com, but then I got a COVID-19 page up there, and I've got my PowerPoints, and I've got some documents, and this will be updated by the time probably anybody sees this. It won't look like that. There'll be much more on there.
Okay.
I've got a cheat sheet that's running about 18 pages long now.
Okay.
Because I've been helping so many people with this. So that's where they'll just simply go. And my email is just don@donphin.com.
Okay, so
Simple enough.
DON@DONPHIN.
.com.
Yeah,
Yep, me at my name.
Yeah, we want to make sure they don't spell it with an F.
No, that's right.
Very good. Hey, Don, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time to share some of your thoughts and insights, and especially from a legal mind, to help these association executives to navigate this this challenging time. Because
So I say, listen, if you really have a question, just contact me. If you want me to do a webinar for your membership, what I've done that for a lot of associations ready for your membership, you let me know. I will be posting on that page a video I did on Sunday with the most current status of things. It's an hour long. You can watch that and you can share that too.
excellent,
Okay?
excellent.
Yep.
Don, thank you so much.
Hey, Ed, thanks for the opportunity. And everybody out there, be well, wash your hands, don't touch your face. Okay?